fascist country singer and wannabe thug Jason Aldean just released a new song, which has already gotten tens of millions of views, called Try That in a Small Town. This is a straight up white supremacist lynching song, and it's a rallying cry for civil war. A lot of people have condemned it for being racist, which it is, but if you don't get the fascist political violence at the heart of it, you don't get where this is going. Let's watch.
Sucker punch somebody on a sidewalk, carjacking old lady at a red light, pull a gun on the owner of a liquor store. You think it's cool, act a fool if you like, cuss out a cop, spit in his face, stomp on the flag and light it up. Yeah, you think it's tough? Well, try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road.
See how far you make it down the road? Think about it. Jason Aldean is saying that people who protest against police brutality or burn the flag in opposition to this country's crimes should get beaten down or even killed. And he's unleashing his millions of followers to do just that. These people can't wait to just wipe out everyone they hate. Black people, immigrants, people who don't conform to the patriarchal gender roles, and anyone who stands up against this system. No, he didn't specifically mention race, but who do you think his racist audience is thinking of and afraid of when he talks about crime? And when he says,
"Around here we take care of our own, you cross that line, it won't take long for you to find out, I recommend you don't."
Who do you think our own is? Do you think he's talking about the Muslim family next door? Or how about Jose and Maria working at the meatpacking plant? The trans kid in the small town high school? Or the 16-year-old girl who needs an abortion? No, as he put it, it's all about the good old boys raised up right.
Try that in a small town full of good old boys raised up right.
Well, who are the good old boys in this country?
Try that in a small town full of good old boys. Full of good old boys.
In case the message wasn't clear enough, he shot the video in front of the Maury County Courthouse in Columbia, Tennessee, the exact place where 18-year-old black youth Henry Choate was lynched in 1927 by a mob of hundreds of white people who attacked him with a sledgehammer, dragged his body through the streets, and then hung him from the second floor of the courthouse. In this very small town in Columbia, Tennessee, at least 20 black men and boys were lynched or disappeared by white mobs and the KKK. Jason Aldean's good old boys. Now fast forward to the modern day lynching of George Floyd by a sadistic pig who kneeled on Floyd's neck for 9 minutes and 29 seconds, suffocating the life out of him while his fellow pigs looked on. Police murder after murder, beating after beating, video after video in small towns and big cities. And Jason Aldean wants people to just swallow this shit? Fuck yeah, people were right to come out in these streets, to express their anger, and yes, to cuss out these murdering cops, and yes, to stomp on that flag, which is nothing but a symbol of oppression, of slavery, genocide, and war, from the beginning of this country down to today. And they were right to defend themselves and each other from these murdering cops and these fascist scum attacking them. As We Are the Revcom says, we need to be involving masses of people and rising up to resist the continuing crimes of this system and defending people from attacks on their rights and their lives by racist, woman-hating, and anti-LGBTQ thugs in and out of government, all as part of preparing for revolution. And by the way, Jason, you lying MAGA moron, you cherry-picked a bunch of images to show protesters as violent and scary. But the truth is, the vast majority of violence during the George Floyd uprising came from police and fascist vigilantes like Kyle Rittenhouse. But you just want more of that kind of violence. As for trying this in a small town,
we'll try that in a small town. See how far you make it down the road.
Guess what, Jason? We did. Have you seen this map? And a lot of the protests in these towns were mostly white kids. That's right, your disobedient sons and daughters. That must really terrify you, huh, Jason? Lastly, to all the decent people who aren't trying to hold on to the good old days when good old boys ran the town, native people were erased, and black people and women knew their place, you need to face what is happening in this country. This is not just another racist country song. It is an incitement to civil war, and tens of millions of people are loving it. Right now, the society is more divided than it's been since the first Civil War in the 1860s. And these MAGA mobs are armed and itching for a new one and a fascist takeover, with the 2024 election very likely to be a key turning point one way or another. There is no going back to normal, and you shouldn't want to anyway. Instead of choosing sides in a new civil war, what we need are masses of people prepared to defeat these fascists as part of getting rid of the whole capitalist imperialist system which spawned them. A system which has white supremacy and male domination built into it, and right now is pushing humanity toward climate catastrophe and World War III. We've seen the potential for revolution in the powerful and courageous uprising of millions of people of all races in 2020. No, that didn't lead to fundamental change, because you can't end racist police murder with more black cops and mayors and reforms and silly demands like defund and abolish the police. To end police terror, you need to abolish the whole system these police enforce and replace it with a completely different socialist system. If you've been discouraged, hopeless, turning inward, sleepwalking while this nightmare accelerates, that's unacceptable. The oppression that made you come into the streets in the first place is still there and getting worse, and there is a real way to fight it. So it's time to wake up and get organized, not just for an uprising, but for an actual revolution. To all those in small towns and big cities who have the heart to fight for something really worth fighting for, it's time to join the RevComs. As Bob Avakian wrote recently, especially at a time like this, a time when big things are up in the world, affecting the whole future of humanity. When those big-time exploiters and oppressors who rule over us in this country are bitterly divided among themselves and increasingly unable to hold things together as a unified ruling class. When there is not just an urgent need, but a real possibility to seize on this situation to overthrow them altogether. If you are not getting with the RevComs, the revolutionary communists who are working every day for this revolution, if you are not part of working to bring about this revolution, then what the hell are you doing?